Going on, beautiful jellyfish? It's Tracy. Thank you so much for taking a little bit of time today to hang out with me. I really appreciate it. And in today's video, I'm going to be doing my top 13 cards of 2023. You might be wondering, why is it not top 10 and why is it not top 23, for example? I'll tell you why. Because these are the cards that I wanted to talk about, and I don't feel it necessary to talk about cards just to fill a quota. That to me is just really silly. And the second thing is, like, these are the cards that I've picked up, I've played with this year, I enjoy, and I don't want to cut cards, and I don't want to not talk about cards just to be, like, top 10 for clicks for a thumbnail or something like that. That just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So, anyways, we are going to be talking about these cards today. These are cards that, again, I've purchased, I've played with, I enjoy. We are not going to be talking about reprints in this video. These are only cards that have come out this past year. We're also not going to be talking about any of like those master sets. I think Commander Legends, whatever it was, pretty sure it was Commander Masters, came out this year, where I did enjoy a lot of cards from that. That goes into the no reprints rules. And we're not talking about anything from Commander sets. At least I don't think any of these are, there might be some of these that are also in the Commander sets, but they were in the main sets as well, just because I looked through, Wilds of Eldraine, March of the Machine, Lord of the Rings. I think there was Phyrexia too, but we're only going to be talking about one card from Phyrexia. I just wanted to talk about the main stuff, not all the Commander and all the supplemental things. So anyways, let's go into doing that, and I organized this by set. So let's just jump into it. So let's first start talking about Wilds of Eldraine. I have two cards that I want to talk to you guys about in this video, and the first card is Ruby Daring Tracker. As soon as I saw this card, I was so incredibly excited about it. I know there was a lot of really exciting cards in Wilds of Eldraine. I personally love Eldraine. It's one of my favorite sets, favorite planes. I just think it's super fun. It's very thematic, very, very fun. I didn't really need a lot of cards from the set, but Ruby, as soon as I saw it, I knew I needed to have her. I did put her in my Reen Commander deck because she's great. She's a mana dork, but she's a mana dork with haste, which I love. I'm really aggressive in Reen. I'm always looking for ways to be really aggressive, and Ruby was a really, really great addition. If I have a creature with power 4 or greater, she gets +2/+2 when she attacks. So then she turns into a 3/4, which is really good for 2 mana, and on top of that, with Reen, she does become a little bit bigger, so she becomes a 4/4, which is real good. So it's great. It's a mana dork. It also attacks, and it does hit pretty hard, which is perfect for me. So Ruby, definitely one of my favorite cards of the year. I really like this card. Okay, also from Wilds of Eldraine. So, bit of a backstory. I don't know what it is. I find it very interesting. Where I get a lot of comments whenever I post, my deck techs. A lot of people will ask me, oh, could you do your updated deck tech, whatever. I get comments like that all the time. And when the stuff had come out for fairies, because obviously Eldraine was very fairy heavy, I got so many comments from people being like, are you going to do an updated Alila deck tech? And what I thought was really interesting about that comment was, no, actually, because I think I had done one actually in 2022. And so I'm not due to film that, or maybe it was this year, I can't remember. So I'm not due to do that anytime soon. I might do one next year. But here's the thing, is a lot of the cards that came out were fairies. The problem is I don't actually have a lot of fairies in Alila. I have artifacts and enchantments because that's what triggers off of Alila. I'm talking OG Alila, not the new Alila, just to be clear. But one of the few cards that I ended up picking up from this, and so that means I like this card, because I would not be picking it up, and it's a fairy, I would not be picking it up and I would not be talking about it if I didn't like it, and that is Obrya, Dreaming Duelist. This card's awesome. So what to me really set this card aside from a lot of the other fairies that I could have run in its place, it's very cheap, it's 2 mana, which I really like. It's got Flash, which I love Flash. Flash is like one of my favorite mechanics. It's just so fun. Why do something on your turn when you can do it on someone else's, Whenever another fairy ETBs under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. I've got fairies entering the battlefields like absolutely crazy in Alila. Absolutely crazy. And I like that this was an alternate win con if I'm not able to attack for any reason. The fact that I can drain my opponents from that, I just think is really, really awesome. So I really enjoy this fairy. It's one of the few fairies I have in Alila, so that means, you know, I like it. Let's talk about March of the Machines. I have 4 cards to talk about. I don't remember if I did a video about March of the Machines. I honestly can't remember. But there's a couple cards, and the first card, I'm actually really excited to be talking to you guys about this card. It's called Tribute to the World Tree. I love Tribute to the World Tree. I played an Omnath game the other day, guys, and I absolutely stomped. I had one of the most ridiculous Omnath games I've had. I don't play Omnath all the time, just because it's a very simple deck. It does one thing, and it does it well, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not something I want to be doing all the time. And one of the cards I had was Tribute to the World Tree, and this card is a house. So basically what I was doing is I'm playing my Omnath deck, and the whole point is to try to make a lot of tokens, obviously, and you punch with the tokens, or you don't, and then you let them die, and then you lightning bolt people to death. So it says whenever a creature, aka whenever one of those 5/5 enters the battlefield, I get to draw a card. So I was just like, land enter the battlefield, draw a card, you know, get a 5/5. It was just ridiculous. And then if you're playing something where, let's just say, even if you are playing bigger creatures, if that, you know, power isn't 3 or greater, you just get to put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Triple green, so it's just something to be aware of. But I think Tribute to the World Tree is an incredible card. It's one of the best card draw engines I've seen. Because of the amount of lands the amount of lands I was able to play, but the amount of cards I was able to draw with this. Every time I had those creatures, every time I had those 5/5s, draw a card, draw a card, draw a card. It was just an insane little synergy I had going. It was very fun. The next card is Thalia and the Gitrog monster, and I decided to pick this up and put it in ladies because it's cheeky and I like it. So Thalia and the Gitrog monster is also just, I find, really funny. I think I have like all the Thalias in ladies, which is just fun. I love the Thalias. I find them all very, very cool. They're very Death and Taxes-y, which I like, but I like that this one's really different. So 4 mana 4/4, it's got First Strike and Death Touch. I can play an additional land on each of my turns, which was really like the main reason that I wanted it. Ladies just kind of, I think, needed a little bit of that punch, and I like that aspect about this card. But it's got that Death and Taxes effect. It's Thalia, of course it does. Creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control into the battlefield tapped. I love that. And whenever this attacks, sack a creature or land, then I get to draw a card. This card does, like, everything. And normally I'm not someone who's, like, all the text on a card, but I love Thalia on the Gitrog monster because I make a lot of tokens in ladies. I make my 1/1s. I'm able to sacrifice that 1/1 token so that I'm able to draw a card. It's great. I get to play additional land. I get creatures and non-basic lands, so I can control the battlefield tap. Like, what is not to love about Thalia and the Gitrog monster? I love it. This card. Oh my gosh. It truly was love at first sight. Whenever Ghalta and Marven entered my life. This is just a big dumb thing, and I am absolutely here for it. Like, I feel like this card should be illegal and not, like, banned. Like, I feel like they messed up when they made this card. And I'm not necessarily mad about it. I just think that they honestly messed up when they made this card. Because here's what this card does. It is a 7 mana 12/12. Why? With trample. I need to know that. Like, before we touch anything else, like, can someone please explain that to me? I love it. So, when I attack, I get to choose one. So it's create a tapped and attacking XX with trample, where X is the greatest power among other attacking creatures. You don't just get a free 12/12. That would be ridiculous. This card's already ridiculous. We don't need to make it more ridiculous, okay? Or you can create X 1/1 vampires with lifelink, where X is the number of other attacking creatures. So if you don't have big things, you could just make some 1/1 vampires with lifelink, which I love. I don't know how this card's legal. I don't know how it's allowed. I wasn't in those executive meetings when they created this card. I wasn't in any meetings at all about this. Nobody consulted me. But I love it, and I'm glad that this card exists because it's super fun. You know I like a card when I run it in multiple decks. I have this card in my Reen deck. It's one of my bigger cards. It just hits so ridiculously hard, and then when it dies, I get to bring it back because that's what Reen does. And then I also have it for my new Queen Alenal deck because it makes me the tokens. And it's a big dumb thing. I love it. Okay, another card for from March of the Machines that I like that came out this year is Drana and Linvala. I've mentioned this, but I'm a Death and Taxes player at heart. It's my one of my favorite things to be. And this card is so fun. As soon as I saw it, I knew I had to put it in ladies because there's not one but two ladies on it, and they're angels. Vampire angels, I guess I should say. Or is one a vampire or is one an angel? Well, Linvala's an angel, Drana's a vampire. I just answered my own question. Okay, that was dumb. Never mind. It's flying, it's got vigilance, and then activated abilities of creatures your opponents control can't be activated. I just love cards like this that just say no to my opponents. It's fun for me. And then it has all activated abilities that my opponents have control. And I can spend mana as though it were mana to activate of any color. Now, what's fine about this is I have this in ladies. I already have this in 5 colors, so that aspect does not matter to me. But I love this card. I think I've only drawn this once. I actually haven't played ladies in a really long time. It's not a deck that I play all the time. So I should definitely break that out, and I should definitely play that again because I do really love ladies. It's very fun. And I'd love a chance to draw this, but it's just a Death and Taxes card, and I love Death and Taxes, so there you go. Okay. Next we're talking about Lord of the Rings, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards to talk about from Lord of the Rings. And, you know, Lord of the Rings was a really interesting set because I didn't really talk about it when it came out, but I actually have really enjoyed this set, and one of the videos that I'd like to do in the future is to talk about my favorite cards from this set. I like to do those videos where I talk about, you know, top cards in sets, but I like to, like, wait a bit for it because I don't want to do it, like, the same year that a video, you know, a set came out or anything like that because I want to make sure that I'm talking about cards that I've gotten a chance to play with and I have sufficient knowledge of before I necessarily talk about it. One of the cards that came out in Lord of the Rings that I knew I wanted immediately was this card called Display of Power. And I wanted this card because Riku. I mean, obviously, it can't be copied, which, I mean, makes total sense. But that's fine with me because I have other ways to make copies. I have other things to do. But it's a 3-mana way that I can just copy, you know, any number of targeted or sorcery spells, and I can choose new targets. I like that it's any number. So I can just, like, pick, okay, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. I just think this card is really funny. I'm trying to honestly remember if I've actually drawn it in Riku, but it doesn't matter. It's a copy spell. I love it. I love all sorts of copy spells. That's the whole name of the game in Riku, and so as soon as I saw this card, I had to have it. If you're playing Riku, I'd look into it. It's fun. Okay, another card from Lord of the Rings we have is Flowering of the White Tree. And as soon as I saw this, I knew that I had to have it. I knew I had to put it in Alila. It fits Alila so incredibly well because legendary creatures, which is Alila, they get +2/+1, and they have ward 1. So she's got that little bit of protection with that ward, which I do really like. I actually think that ward is a very fair, very good mechanic. I like it. And then it triggers off Alila, so then I can have my my fairy token into the battlefields. And then non-legendary creatures, which is basically all of my other fairies, get +1/+1. And then I've got Alila, so they're already 2/1s, and now they're 3/2s with Alila. So it just is perfect. It's a perfect Alila card. I just really enjoy Flowering of the White Tree. I think it fits in a lot of different things. It is double white, so just something to note, but I like it. I think this is a good card. Rising of the Day is one of the newer. There's a lot of cards that do really similar stuff. But what I really enjoy about Rising of the Day is we've seen a 3-mana enchantment, creatures that control have haste, but the legendary creatures gaining +1/+0 is really good. I just love a buff. That's what I've honestly just really noticed about myself in Magic is, like, if I'm able to just have my creature base power and it's already solid, and then you have that other creature and then it already just gets bigger, it's so good. I have a couple of copies of this card. I have one in Marchesa, I'm sure of that. And then I also have one in Reen, I'm fairly certain. I do have a lot of legendaries in that deck as well, so again, they get a little bit bigger. Marchesa and Reen this year got a lot of new toys, which is really, really awesome. I love both those decks, so it's great, but I love having haste. I find it's just such a great mechanic, and that little bit of a buff makes Rising the Day a great card. It's also very inexpensive, so there you go. The next card is Eowyn, Fearless Knight. Also, apologies for pronunciations. I haven't seen Lord of the Rings. I'm gonna watch it this year. I'm telling you right now. Check back in with me later in 2024, okay? So, this card is so cool. I was just talking about this card in a different video. This card is a 4-mana 3/4 with haste. And when it enters the battlefield, you just get to exile something for like free 99. Not with it, not under it, anything like that. You just get to exile it. The stipulation is that it has to have greater power. But I find that something you're getting rid of with greater power than 3, it's probably going to be really threatening. It's probably going to be something that you want to get rid of. You know, it's not going to hit everything. It's going to hit a lot of things. Legendary creatures you control gain protection from each of those colors, which I just think is a nice added bonus. I just really like this card. It's very, very, very aggressive. I have a copy of this in Marchesa, and I just ordered one, and it is going in Reen. I tend to run a lot of similar cards in those decks because they have similar colors, and I like it. So I really enjoy this card. I love getting rid of something. Just free. And then I'm left with this 3/4. After it's done, after I get my protection, I just have a 3/4. I love that. I was looking for little ways to draw me cards in anything. And the next card is called Mary, Esquire of Rohan. It is 2 mana for a 2/2. It's got haste. We love that. When it has first strike, as long as it's equipped, I don't really personally care about that effect. But if you're playing, like, I don't think you need to play equipments to get this off, is what I'm trying to say. Whenever I attack with this and another legendary creature, you're commander. You just get to draw a card, which I just think is so amazing. I love this. I have this in Reen, just Reen, and I think it's incredibly strong. As soon as I saw this card, I was like, oh, you know, and I think sometimes too we get lost where like, oh, we're not going to use a certain part of a card. Is that relevant? I honestly don't think I think it's fine. I also do run quite a lot of legendaries, like I mentioned in Reen. So it's very easy if I don't have Marchesa. It's very easy for me to do this and another thing, and then I just get to draw a card. There you go. Very, very good. I think it's a very good, like, any point of the card game. Like, really good in the early game when your people don't have a lot of creatures. Really good at any point because you want to draw cards. Okay, next card up is Theoden, King of Rohan. I have this in Marchesa. This card's super cool. So it's 3 mana 2/3. When this or another human ETBs, target creature gains double strike. I just talked about this in my deck tech for my Marchesa deck, and I think this card is super cool. So I have a bunch of humans in there. It's like human, subhuman tribal. The majority of the creatures are humans in there. And if you're playing humans tribal in Commander, I would really recommend looking into this card because you're playing all your humans and then they just gain double strike. Like, there's not a whole lot to say. There's not a lot going on in this card, but I really like this. All your things just become so much better and they just hit so much harder. It's great. And the last card, card number 13 for this video, is Minas Tirth. Okay, I really can't win to see Lord of the Rings and I can actually pronounce these cards. So, I purchased this card for Angels. And I will say, I'm kind of at this point with Angels where, you know, the deck is almost fully foiled. What am I really putting in there that's new? And this broke the mold. So you know that means something when I'm running a card that I haven't tweaked the deck in a while. And I'm running this card in there. But enters the battlefield tapped unless I control legendary creature. Again, my commander. But even if it doesn't the battlefield tap, if it's a little slow, that is personally okay by me. And then I can tap to add white. And then for 2 mana, I get to draw a card. I can only activate it if I attack with 2 or more creatures this turn. What I often have found with a lot of lands that draw cards is a lot of them are really expensive in terms of cost. Now, I do have to attack with 2 or more creatures, but 2 and tapping this is a pretty small price to pay for that. A lot of the other cards, like I'm thinking like Arc of Araska, for example, is another land that I do enjoy, but it's 5 and tap it. That means I'm spending 6 lands to tap it. And I like to have at least some lanes that do draw me cards, because if I'm at a pinch and I really need, you know, to draw cards, you know, because I've got no cards in my hand or just whatever the situation may be, I'm looking for some sort of out. This is a really solid one. I think attacking with 2 or more creatures is just such a small price to pay, and then I get to do this, and I get to draw a card. So, I like it. Now, I wanted to talk about honorable mentions, and kind of what this is these are cards that I actually have on my wish list that I haven't yet purchased, but I'm actually looking to buy them. I think one of these I've actually purchased, and I am waiting on this card in the mail, which is exciting. And I was actually just talking to my friend Koji about this card the other day. It's a card called Kutzil, Malamet Exemplar. This card came out in... What set is this? I just talked about all the sets, and then I'm not sure what the set symbol is, but I ended up purchasing this for what's it called? For Marven. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn, which is just a great little bit of protection. You never know what you're really stopping your opponent from doing by doing this, so I really like that. And then whenever one or more creatures you control with power greater than its base power deals combat damage to a player, you get to draw a card. So you do need to have something with power greater than its base power. But with my Marine deck, all my multicolored creatures, other ones get +1/+0. So all my stuff gets a lot bigger, and I have a lot of other buffs in that deck too. So this card is going to be hitting hopefully a lot of things. So I don't necessarily know the power necessarily of this card. I don't know how good it is and all that sort of stuff, but I do like it, and I like that it's a concept that draws me cards. So, and that's whenever they attack. So there you go. That is one card. And then I have my one card from, I believe, from Phyrexia. I don't think either of these other cards are in Phyrexia. No. That is this card called Mondrak, Glory Dominus. This is cool. We've seen a lot of effects like this before. Doubling of the creature tokens. Anointed Procession. This is basically just Anointed Procession, but on a creature. So it's 4 mana for a 4/4, and then if 1 or more tokens, twice how many tokens are created instead. But what I really like about this card is that for 3 mana, I can sack 2 other artifacts and our creatures to put an indestructible counter on this. So it's got that little bit of protection as well, which I really like. This is on my wish list. It's been very, very, very expensive. Foil's sitting at about $30-$40, which is pretty expensive. And then the base as well is like that too. It's very similarly priced, the foil to the non-foil. This is not like the foil is just really expensive. I think this card's cool. I'd like to pick it up. And then I have, again, name from Lord of the Rings, Peregrin Took. So this card I would like to put in my... Oh, and I didn't mention that, but the other card I'd like to put this in... These are all for Queen Alenal. This card, I actually have my full 65 for that deck. I'm just waiting, actually, on... I have a deck box that's in the mail, and I need to buy sleeves, and I have the full deck. I need to pull lands, actually, for that deck, too. But anyways, this card is whenever, if 1 or more tokens, which I'm doing a token strategy in that deck, and it synergizes with my commander, which I love. If 1 or more tokens be created in your control, those tokens plus additional food are created instead, which I just think is really cool. You just get tokens, and then you can sack 3 foods to draw a card, which I really, really enjoy. So I like the fact that, not only am I getting the tokens, but then I get the food, and then I can sack 3 to draw a card, which is awesome. And if I have more than, 3 foods, for example, if I have 6, I can do this 2 separate times. I don't have to tap him, which I think is so incredibly cool. So I'm really excited to pick this up. It's not a very expensive card, but it is on my list. And the last card for this video, another card that I'd like to pick up that, again, is just been very, very expensive, which I just haven't. And also, I just mentioned I just have the cards for the deck, so I didn't need to buy any extras, right? Is Ojer Deepest Foundation. As soon as this card was spoiled, I knew immediately that I needed to get it for that Queen Alenal deck because it creates 3 times as many tokens, which we've seen a lot of those token doublers, but I've never seen a token tripler before. And I think it's cool. It is a lot of mana. It's 6 for the 6/6, but it's got Vigilance, which is cool. And then when it dies, I can return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. It's a land. And then I can, for 3, I can transform it. I can only do it if I attack with 3 or more creatures, and only as a sorcery, but I'm making a bunch of tokens, so I'm not worried about that. What I really like about this is that it dies, and you're like, okay, and then you get a land out of it. And then it's pretty easy to flip it back into its other things, which makes it really hard to remove. So you're going to need an exile spell to deal with this. So I think this card is really, really cool. And I'm definitely excited to pick it up. It's just been very expensive, so I've not picked it up yet. So hopefully I will though. But anyways, guys, that is it for this video. I'd really, really, really love to know what cards you guys have just really, really loved this year. I haven't done one of these videos in a while. I think I did one a couple of years ago where I talked about my top cards, and I definitely want to be better about keeping track of cards as the year goes on, so that way I'm not scrambling, because I had to re-look through all the sets to remind myself, like, what did I pick up this year, because I honestly, like, I couldn't remember what had come out this year. Also, too, sometimes I discover cards, but they're not new cards, they're just new to me, like, I've never seen a card before, and I'm like, oh, I need to pick this up. So, guys, I would really like to know, again, what cards are that you have enjoyed this year that have come out. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I'll catch you all in my next one.